It's Echo Park in 1922.
Creepy.
And a wealthy garment manufacturer named Fred Osterreich and his wife Walburga, but we'll call her Dolly, they get home to 858 Lafayette Place, and they are in the middle of a heated argument when they get home. And as the fight intensified, a man emerges from a part of the house and shot Fred 3 times and took his diamond watch off his wrist. Then he shoves the wife into a closet and returns into the attic from where he emerged, where he had been living for 8 years.
Hang on, you want me to ask you why you might think that's creepy?
I don't know. I was writing it, I'm like, well, Daniel thinks like dancing skeletons are scary. I don't know if he'll think a man living in your home, or you're unaware of a man living in your home is scary.
Is he paying rent, though?
How much do you put down for that?
Is he pulling his weight? You know, we have an attic space in our apartment.
Yeah.
And it's swung open twice in the middle of the night, and it's the scariest thing ever. But when that Dear David stuff was coming out, I was like, Dear David's up there. I know Dear David's up there. But I recently just put, like, they say to, like, make your apartment warmer, put weather stripping around, like, the edges of that thing.
Oh, yeah.
So I have that there, and I check it every day, like, has it come loose? That is something that has always terrified me.
Yeah, people living in the attic.
But even scarier, coming out of that attic, dancing skeletons. That would really do it for me.
You're offbeat.
That would put the final nail in the coffin, which is also scary to me.
This is a story of the Batman of Echo Park, alternatively the Garrett Ghost.
I've heard of this.
Okay. So neighbors heard 3 gunshots that killed Fred.
The Bruce Wayne of Echo Park.
The Bruce Wayne of Echo Park. Yeah, he lives in the Batcave, and he's mostly just touching himself. Neighbors heard the 3 gunshots that killed Fred, and then came by and found him, obviously deceased, and found his wife hysterical, locked in the closet. They find out from her that a burglar had made his way into the home and killed Fred for money, but was only able to get his wristwatch. This is an obvious red flag to police. A man of great wealth in a home full of heavy things that could get pawned, and he's only scrapped for his watch.
And, like, why go back in the... Okay.
Also, there's no sign of a break-in, which, as we know already, there's not going to be. But based on this...
So it seems like you spoiled the surprise at the beginning here.
No, I gave you the best part up front.
Show some showmanship. You're going to sell me this to the Cells Flawless Circuit? This is going to go on stage on the Buffalo Bill Cody?
I mean, if this was the entire story as that one paragraph, I could sell it, baby. One paragraph horror stories?
Yeah, this is Ernest Hemingway wrote this one, didn't he?
But based on this and very little evidence to go on, there was no suspects, no leads. And the case was as dead as Fred Osterreich. His wife Dolly eventually moved out of the house like a couple months later, and she lived with...
Goodbye, Dolly.
That's what I should have titled this, and it would have not spoiled anything. So she moves out of the house. She's ready to make new memories. I believe she lived at 101 North Beechwood Drive after this, which is in...
Why does that sound familiar? What else is on Beechwood Drive?
I think you might be thinking of Beechwood
Hollywood
Canyon.
Sign. Oh, yeah, I am.
Yeah, you might think... I don't know if it's near there or not. I looked it up, and
I'm thinking of beaches and woody cars.
That's what you are thinking of. And they're always linked as far as T-shirts for tourists go.
As far as shirts they sell on the Venice Boardwalk, yeah.
At this point, she moves out. She's living on Beechwood Drive, and she began having feelings for her real estate attorney, Herman Shapiro. So she was so smitten with Shapiro that she gave him a gift, a diamond watch.
What?
The one that her husband, rest his soul, was supposedly killed over.
Huh.
And as she would explain to him, she later found it in a window seat cushion. But don't tell anybody.
A window seat cushion?
Yeah.
What is that?
Brand Library has a big window, and then they have a seat cushion you could sit against the window. Window seat cushion.
It's rich people thing.
It's rich people stuff.
You know what's in my window? Basil that I'm growing because I can't afford to buy basil. Don't tell me about your seat cushions in the window with diamond watches in them.
You know what's on my window? Dead flies. They thought they were going to get out.
I'm Renfield.
So she finds the diamond watch. She gives it to Herman Shapiro. All the while, right above their heads in the attic of a new house altogether, a man named Otto Sandberger continued writing his novels on a typewriter.
Wait, what? Wait a minute. So they moved into a new house? And
Let's go back to the 1900s in Milwaukee.
Okay.
And we'll talk about Dolly a little bit. She was born in Germany in 1880.
Laverne and Shirley.
Laverne and Shirley and Dolly.
Schlemiel Schlemazeltown.
She was born in Germany in 1880. Her name's Walburga Korschel. They called her Dolly for short. And she...
Wait a minute. Her first name is Wahlberger?
Walburga.
Oh, Walburga.
Walburga.
So it is the Mark and Donnie Wahlberg. That's how they would pronounce their own store. Yeah. Walburga.
Walburga. If there's a female in their family, she's probably named Walburga.
So is the Wahlberg hamburger place, Wahlburgers, a play on Wall Burgers? Or is this like a reference to like their grandma who is Walburga from Germany?
I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about.
Okay. Let's go back to 1900s Milwaukee. Mark Wahlberg, you're familiar.
Yes.
Marky Mark.
Oh, that's right. He had a burger thing.
He was a singer. Marky Mark.
Oh,
you might know him.
You know his brother Don. He's also a singer. He's also a good actor too. I like him a lot.
They opened up a hamburger place called Wahlburgers.
Oh, you're right.
So that's what I'm playing off of here.
Sorry.
But now I'm genuinely wondering, like, is it a play on words or is this a reference? Like, did they have a grandma from Germany named Wahlburger and it plays on both levels?
Should we stop the whole episode and find out?
Mark Wahlberg lives like right over here in my attic.
Wahlberg's an actor. He has to live in Studio City somewhere.
He's a working actor. He must be nearby.
Because you said Mark Wahlberg is a singer, I keep forgetting that he's also an actor too.
And what an actor.
Boogie Nights. Other stuff, probably.
The one where he steals money. Boogie Nights.
So she comes to America.
Don't say Boogie Nights this close to somewhere where they filmed the Paul Thomas Anderson movie.
Oh, no.
Maya Rudolph might show up. God forbid.
God forbid. The wonderful actress Maya Rudolph might show up.
One of my early crushes, Maya Rudolph.
Oh, you mean Kamala Harris? Anyways, I hate when people do that. Okay, whatever. Dolly comes to America. She's born in 1880s in Germany, comes to America. Life is pretty awful here. She moves to Milwaukee, and it's just like, whatever.
In all fairness, bad choice.
Bad choice, yeah. In
all fairness, I think one of our Patreon people this month is from Milwaukee, so
it's probably really lovely now, but the turn of the century,
I'd love to go there.
Turn of the century probably sucked. She marries Fred in her 20s, and he's pretty wealthy. Fred was a apron manufacturer, and Dolly was an obedient housewife. But he was just stubborn.
How many stories of this do we have of like early 1900s of he was a this and she was at home?
Yeah, she was at home just ironing whatever she could find. She would wrinkle stuff and then iron it all day long.
She was at home getting ready to say goodbye to her children.
Apart from being an apron manufacturer, which is where he made most of his money, he was also a hard-drinking brute, and he left plenty to be desired. What was desired came knocking on her door in 1913 in the form of a quiet 17-year-old sewing machine repairman who worked for her husband, Otto Sandhuber. When he arrived to find the lonely housewife...
Wahlberger Sandhuber. I like the sound of that.
Yeah, if she married him, Wahlberger Sandhuber. So he arrives to her house to fix the sewing machine, and she met him wearing a silk robe and little else. And the two pretty much boinked on the spot, and it became a long affair.
Not to get too graphic, but they boinked hard.
Right there. Right then and there.
Vigorously,
in the dirt.
repeatedly.
Halfway outside, halfway inside.
The sewing machine, watching.
Judging every movement.
Going up and down, up and down, up and down. But again, not to be too graphic.
Like Hitchcock always has like trains going through. Instead, he just has like...
It's a sewing machine like catching on fire. It's going so fast. It's like embroidering the number 69 on a shirt.
Hump, 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 hump. Any neighbors who questioned seeing this young guy coming over during the day constantly through the day would be told by Dolly that he was a vagabond half-brother. But he's really just a guy who's over to have sex.
Or like a shagabond.
It's unclear at what point she needed his bone on tap. But before 1918, she had already arranged...
not to be too graphic.
Not to be too graphic, of course. But before 1918, she had already arranged for him to live in her attic as her sex slave.
Oh, my God.
My
God. Okay.
He quit his job.
Why you told us that at the beginning.
He quit his job and cut himself off from everyone as he became her Batman.
Wahlberger.
I'm reading this story, and she's like, she's a seductress, and he's a 17-year-old. And I looked it up, and it reminds me of that line from Oh, Hello, where they're going through the decades, and they talk about the Berlin Wall falling, and he's like, people in red coats hugging people in gray coats, everyone ugly. I looked up, oh, my God, everyone in the story is ugly. They're so, 1920.
But you can't wear a silk robe and be ugly. You're telling me that a door-to-door vagabond sewing machine salesman is ugly?
And a lonely housewife of a apron manufacturer. At night, he would read mystery novels and write his own pulp stories by candlelight. And by day, he would keep Dolly satisfied, as well as helping her clean up the residence and make bathtub gin.
All right. Quite a job description.
What's your resume? Allow me to show you. In 1918...
Why tell when I can shtup?
In 1918, Fred Osterreich was growing more successful, and sure, he thought a move to the West Coast would only make it all better. So he planned to come to Los Angeles. I guess it's time for Dolly to choose between remaining in her loveless marriage in beautiful Angel City or remaining in Milwaukee with her lover boy toy. Not necessarily. There's a third option. So the Osterreichs moved to 858...
Did they strap him to the roof of the car and he didn't notice?
So the Osterreichs moved to Echo Park, and tailing them was Dolly's lover, Otto Sandhuber. He arrived earlier, and he stood on the First Street Bridge at night and just waiting for their train to come. How creepy is that?
That's creepy.
Yeah. He again.
Wait a minute. Was he dancing just like a skeleton then?
I hate to say it to you, dude. I know that you have nightmares about this.
I know that you're suffering from kidney stones right now, and the doctor told you it was caused by fright, but from Halloween. But
you asked, and I have to tell you. So they take up a new residence, and then Otto takes up a sub-residence in the new home's attic.
He took up a subreddit on,
and it was biz as usual.
Wait, so what? One day when the husband went to work, they're just like, all right, come in, and he went into the attic.
Yeah, she set up an attic space for him slowly while the husband was at work, and then one day he just slipped in.
But how did he not hear something?
That's what I wonder too. It would have had to been at night.
Yeah,
exhausted from humping all day. No, yeah, that's what Ada was asking too. Was like he must have heard something, but if he did, he never told any friends or workers about it. And also,
that's what's scary though, because at night I will hear noises in the attic or what sounds like coming from the attic, and maybe it's a rat, maybe it's
two possums fighting.
But it's just the building, other things are happening. So I guess you could brush it off.
You could brush it off.
Yeah.
Also,
every single night, raccoons every time
You just
someone...
have a record playing really loud.
It's the only way I can sleep. And it's a record of raccoon noises.
Just eating trash. Otto was managing to sell his stories and get some money that way. He bought a typewriter, which typewriters of the 20s must have been like foot stomping. It must have been so loud. He walked into
The raccoon really... the raccoon's working on his memoir.
I left the book up there. He learned how to read. He's writing his own.
It's like those monkeys that type Shakespeare, but it's the raccoon, and I bought him a typewriter.
And he also survived on the nickels and dimes his Dom Dolly would toss his way. So he's like, he lives on so little, and he's so okay with it, and it's so weird.
Hey, a writer's life.
We get back to August 22nd, 1922. The Osterreichs come home raging, already having been fighting on their way home. The fight intensifies, and Otto is in the attic, and he's worried for Dolly. So he comes out carrying two 25 caliber pistols, which are the small little guns. I thought that they were like, in my head I saw 45 Magnums, and then I looked at it, I'm like, this is like a pea shooter.
He walks out of there like Clint Eastwood.
Yeah. Bing, 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 bing.
It's like a cap gun.
It won't even knock over like the pinballs at the carnival. That's how small the gun is. And he is ready to. He comes down, guns blazing, ready to protect Dolly.
Guns plinking.
Yeah, but Dolly wasn't the one who needed protecting after Otto came out from his hiding place, because not only was there a man in Fred's house, but he knew him. He recognized Otto. You worked for me, and you're here in another state, coming out of a part of my house. You're obvious. Like it was.
Yeah, which part is most surprising? What should I grapple with first?
What do you want me to apologize for? It's at least half clear what's going on. Not that he's been living in the attic, but that, yeah. So Fred sees him, he flies into a rage, and Otto fires at him and kills him. It's unclear who took the watch really, but he locked Dolly in the closet after the two staged a burglary and returned to the attic. The police are suspicious, but they could never conceive of a killer living in the attic.
So the reason they took the watch was just so like
It'll
look like a robbery.
Yeah, it'll look like a robbery, which was half-hearted. I mean, they had a minute because the neighbors called after the gunshots and the screaming, so they picked something.
They had to go through the whole phone tree of that day, which took like 4 hours. Murray Hill's calling.
Sarah, get the police here.
Hang on, I'm talking about my banana split with my bow.
You won't believe what Albert had for lunch again. So after this, Otto flees California till the heat dies down, and around this time is when Dolly starts with Herman Shapiro. And Otto, I guess, is unaware of Herman, or maybe the two. He eventually learns about Herman and is okay with it, because when she moves, she lets Otto know, and he moves in with her again. So kink restored. It's 1923, a year after the crime, or like 9 months after the crime. So let's get to the unraveling. Dolly, now with Otto back in the attic and Shapiro at work in the courtroom, takes up with a new man, Roy H. Klum. She asks Klum for a favor, the same favor she asked a neighbor who she trusted. They were both given one 25 caliber gun to bury. The neighbor had to bury it in the yard because Dolly said it looked suspiciously like the gun that killed her husband, and she was scared the cops would suspect her for it. She told Klum the same.
Bury it in a shallow grave near the scene of the crime.
Yeah, exactly. Can you just bury it in his rib cage? Looked like he swallowed it. So she told the neighbor, bury this in the yard. She told Klum the same thing, and if you could throw it in the La Brea tar pits. By the way, listen to the episode of the criminal podcast Deep Dive about an investigator who had to sink into the pits to find the evidence. Not for this case, for another case in like 2013. But Jesus Christ, he describes what it's like to sink into the tar pit. It's terrifying.
I can empathize with that elephant now. Why does this sound so familiar? We haven't done this story before, have we?
No, we haven't.
I feel like this is a scenario we envisioned.
Yeah, maybe. It's like a
Wasn't
fever
this an
dream.
intro?
Oh, our sex slave intro. God, an episode about sex slaves. They wouldn't need a deep diver for this case, though, because when he threw the gun, it landed on the side of the tar pit, not in the pit. She doesn't know this.
This is how I thought this was going to go.
Yeah.
It's on the side, and he's like, I got to get it in. And he tries to push it in, and he falls into
the thing, and he is like the mammoth, but nobody's there on the other side to warn him.
His babies aren't there crying for him.
So she doesn't know that he threw it on the side of the pit. And if she did, maybe she'd think twice about breaking up with Klum, because he immediately went to police about the gun, which of course they easily found. She was quickly arrested, and after the headline hits, the neighbor who hid the gun for Dolly went to the cops about what Dolly told her to do. So now she's locked up, and you know how when you're heading home and you get a flat tire and you're like, oh no, I can be here forever, and AAA comes and you ask them if they can call the cops to go to your house and feed your dog? Well, a similar thing happened here, except for feeding a dog, it's letting your sex slave know that he should probably take the day off, not take that Viagra, and don't wait up for me.
Take a cold shower
Take
today.
a cold shower and cool off, because it's going to be a while.
Stop looking at those cheesecake photos that are the only thing you have up there.
Cheesecake drawing. So Herman Shapiro, her lover, comes to consult her in the attorney's room of the lockup, and she took him to a quiet corner and asked Shapiro if she can go buy groceries for the Batman and tap on the bedroom closet to let him know that he should come out. She told Shapiro the same lie she told neighbors in Milwaukee. I have a vagabond half-brother who's been totally harmless living in the attic. Here's Shapiro's accounts for the papers. Oh my God. I went to the house, entered the bedroom, but in that tap, I whistled from sheer nervousness. The closet door was open. Suddenly, I saw an arm extend from the wall, and a voice said, "Hello, Herman. Don't be afraid of me," which is the exact time you should be afraid of something. When a mysterious limb emerges from the closet and says, "Don't be afraid," go ahead, be afraid.
And knows your name.
Yeah. Herman says, "I was stifled with fear. I looked and I saw a head, and then I saw a man slide out of a hole in the shelf, a shelf that is ordinarily built to hold hats. The man spoke to me, assuring me of his friendship and inquiring about the condition of the health of Dolly.
Hello, Herman.
I've been waiting to speak with you, Herman.
I believe we have something in common.
We're sort of brothers, aren't we?
We're sort of vagabond half-brothers, are we not, Herman?
Herman looks into the hole and sees a radio, a writing board attached to the roof raftered by hinges to form a desk, a reading lamp, large buckets of water, an electric foot warmer, canned goods, a small mattress, a large collection of books, and very few clothes. That makes sense. And a razor.
Very few sexy clothes. Hey, well, he's got everything he needs. How big was this space?
The hole?
I mean, the hole sounds really small.
Yeah,
but like, what was
the attic space. I think I saw a diagram online, and it's like livable. Like it's a cramped living for sure, but it's not like a tight closet space. Like it's an
rent
attic.
control. This is why we need rent control.
He found that the hole was protected from the inside by laths and tar paper. So if anyone should enter the attic through the regular opening, they wouldn't discover his secret room. They would look into a dark space, and it would feel like you were looking at a dark wall and not a dark piece of paper.
Okay.
This also blocked out the reflection of the reading lamp. So anybody from the outside, if there's any openings, so he perfectly sealed himself in. He'd been living in the Beechwood place for 4 months, but living in an attic as Dolly's sex slave for close to 10 years through 5 different residences, 3 in Milwaukee, 2 in LA, and across 2 states.
Starting from a 17-year-old.
As a 17-year-old guy. And at this point,
guy grow up to, like, what was he like after this?
I don't know. At this point, Otto was starved for attention. Now that he has Herman's ear, he was going to unload. Otto told Herman
That's
was
a new part of the body for him to unload on.
I've never done this before. Dolly hates it when I talk. The story Otto told Herman was that he had been an orphan who was adopted by a family in Milwaukee named Sandhuber. He lived with his family all his life until that day in 1913 when he boned his boss's wife and started a new life as a Batman. There is some evidence that this isn't true and that in 1905... that
she was his Ra's al Ghul.
Emphasis on Ghul. 1905 Wisconsin census, it lists him as a 17-year-old Wisconsin-born son of George Sandhuber. The 1910 federal census lists him as born in Germany, and the 1917 World War I draft card lists his birthplace as New York. So who really knows this guy's backstory?
Who knows the Batman?
Either way, he said after this point is when Dolly and Fred moved to Los Angeles. He stands on the First State Bridge. He watches the train come in. He talked about the murder of Fred, that it was simple enough. He feared for Dolly because he knew how Fred was, and he was probably drunk. So when he came at him, Otto just killed him. Didn't think twice about it. He went back into the attic after that to listen to Dolly be questioned. Herman seemed to have pity on Otto and told him to scram, beat it, kid, hit the streets, and don't stop till you hit snow, baby. This is the 20s.
This is an exact quote from the movie.
It's from the papers. So Otto left, and Dolly was released on bail. Her and Herman moved in together.
Her and her man.
Yeah, her and her man. Like, after you found out that you had somebody attic, how do you live with this person? She had been doing it on your time, too. Not just, okay, whatever. Otto leaves. So he goes to Canada, and I think he lived in Oregon for a bit, but he comes back in 1926, and when he comes back, he tells Herman, hey, I'm back, just be aware. And he wasn't back for Dolly, because now he was a married man looking for a small, cramped place to live. So he comes back.
He's married.
He's married, yeah. Okay. He comes back, but not for Dolly, because now he's a married man. He wants to start a new life, and he wants his wife to know nothing about his previous life.
Apparently, our house, no roof.
No roof
at all.
It's
just to show how much I love you.
It's exposed. I don't know about this. I read this from Herman's account, so I don't know how accurate it is, but apparently when Herman comes back into town, he made Otto rebuild the cedar closet at the Beechwood place at the request of Dolly.
What?
Dolly said, patch that hole up that you used to live in. And if that isn't a sexual ambush, if I've ever heard one. Hey, I need him to come over for a bit and fix a hole. Now it's 1930. 7 years of a tumultuous relationship with Herman and Dolly. They finally call it quits, and at this point, Herman comes clean to the police about everything he knows, which included an incident in 1928 when Dolly and an unknown man attacked Herman as he came out of his law offices and attempted to force him into a car. I don't know what that's about, but that was in a paper that Herman was revealing everything. So police rearrest Dolly and charge her for conspiracy, and they arrest Otto for the murder, which his wife must have found out at that point that he was like a sex slave.
Oh, I forgot to mention.
Oh, you didn't know why I had all this leather masks? This ball gag.
I never talked about my 20s.
This ball gag made of wood because it's the 1929 right now.
Made out of asbestos. It's nice up there. There's asbestos to keep you warm.
As asbestos as you want.
And it's so tasty, too.
He gets arrested for murder. He gets knocked down to manslaughter because he says that it was self-defense. And because of statute of limitations at the time, I didn't look it up, but the statute of limitations for manslaughter.
That's crazy. But is it self-defense if you're protecting somebody else? Like, he wasn't in danger. She was in danger.
Yeah, it's probably not self-defense. You probably are defending someone's life, though. And then he felt like he was personally going to get killed, too, so he...
Okay. Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
If you're stopping someone from killing somebody else, chances are they're probably going to try to kill you,
kill you too. If you stand around and wait for them, they're probably going to kill you too.
If you give a murderer a motive.
Enough time and a motivation. As he's strangling someone, you don't like witnesses, do you? How do you feel about witnesses?
You wouldn't do that to me, would you?
So he was in charge with Fred's murder. Dolly's conspiracy trial ended with her walking free after her attorney, Jerry Geisler, won her a hung jury. Dolly lived
I'm
to
sure
be...
that's her favorite kind.
I'm going to have a jury. Dolly lived to be 75 years old. She passed in 1961, being married to her second husband, Ray Burt Hendrick, who was 30 years old.
Can she, like, not marry someone with a normal name?
It's the 30s. There's no such thing. So in 1995, they made a movie titled The Man in the Attic starring Ann Archer and Neil Patrick Harris, which was based on a true
what year
story.
was this?
1995, they made the movie.
Oh, okay. I thought you said 1933 and Neil Patrick Harris was in it.
He never ages.
Doogie
He looks
Howser.
just as young as he was in Doogie Howser. So I got most of this from an article from Cecilia Rasmussen. This is how she ends it. I think it's a perfect way to end this too. The house where Fred Osterrock was shot to death still stands at 858 Lafayette Park Place in Echo Park off at Bentway. It's been divided into 6 apartments, one of those being the attic. And that's the story of the Batman of Echo Park.